Hey, welcome to Engine Adventures. Today we're going to be covering Subaru's Symmetrical All-Wheel Drive and X-Mode. Alright, so let's jump right into it. Symmetrical All-Wheel Drive is on all the time. That means the power is constantly being sent to all four wheels. Subaru still maintains really good efficiency, even though it is always powering all four wheels. It also provides really good traction. So as you can see here, this is in normal mode. You don't have to touch anything and it will do this. A lot of other vehicles you have to engage a system of some sort or change the drive mode. In the Subaru, you just drive it and it will be very capable, especially in all weather conditions. The reason it's called symmetrical all-wheel drive is because all of the driveline components are perfectly symmetrical side to side. So the left half shafts, both front and rear, are the same length as the right half shafts, both front and rear. It's basically perfectly balanced. With a very low center of gravity because of the boxer engine, that improves handling both on and off road and makes it a more capable vehicle.
Alright, again, first shot, no X mode. Second shot, we'll throw the X mode on.
In practice, I didn't notice much of a difference between the normal mode and the X mode. The X mode did seem to be a little bit more aggressive in transferring power where it needed to go, but really it just didn't make that big of a difference.
Okay, it's definitely not making it. I'm going to try a little momentum.
Here we see the biggest issue with the Subaru's off-roading, and this is common with all vehicles that have a CVT transmission. The gearing just isn't low enough to climb a steep hill while applying brakes to wheels that are spinning. You can see here it just constantly gets stopped by this spot where it's articulating and lifting a wheel kind of off the ground and losing traction.
Alright, now X mode.
And with X mode on, it seems to struggle even a little bit more just because it's applying even more braking force and quicker, and it makes it harder for the engine to power up the hill. There's just not enough torque getting to the wheels to be able to make this climb.
Okay, we'll turn off traction control and see if we can do it with a little momentum.
So there is a traction control off button, but as you can see, it still breaks the spinning wheels. There's no true off. Even if you hold the traction control button down for like 10 seconds, it doesn't do anything besides turn traction control off, and even then, it doesn't really turn it off. So part of Subaru's all-wheel drive system is applying the brakes to the spinning wheels, and so they don't want to turn that off when you turn the traction control off. The only real way to disable this is to pull a fuse, which I did not do for these tests, as that's a little further than most people want to go. Now you can see if there was a mode that would allow at least for a little bit more wheel slip, it would have climbed this hill a lot easier. Every time a wheel starts to slip, it applies the brakes and then it stops the momentum of the vehicle. We are able to crest the hill, but that put a lot of stress on the CVT and caused it to heat up to the point where you could smell it just a little bit. And because of that, we decided to give it a rest, let it cool off, and then get back to it in a minute.
Alright, so real quick, just wanted to show you, so the X mode button's here, and it shows up on both of those. So this is just showing like the downhill assist and just barely climbing that hill. When I had it in reversed, that was slowing me down. So I didn't even push on the brake at all when I put it in reverse to go down. I just let that slow me down on one of the attempts, and it worked really well. So I'm glad that works. And then over here, see if we can get a good shot. That is the, there we go. That's the traction control button. And even with it off, it was still cutting power, maybe. Definitely braking the wheels and stuff. It was still, I don't know. Traction control still had an effect, and that was both with X-Mode on and off, so I'm not sure what that was all about. All right, so this is the hill start assist. So I'll just go ahead, I have my foot on the brake right now, and you can see that it's lit up right there. So as I pull forward, I'm on a little bit of a hill, I'll pull up here and I'll stop. And then the parking brake turns on, I take my foot off the brake, and I'm good to go. If I start pushing on the gas again, I'll just push the gas now, the parking brake goes off and I can go. Same thing in reverse. Stays in park. As soon as I touch the gas, it lets off. But you can see in the tachometer there, that one comes on when you push it, and that's where that one lights up. And then here, it kind of shows what your power is doing, but not super well. So, like when the wheels were slipping and stuff, this, like, I don't know. I'll show you right now real quick when you're driving that it shows where the power is going, how it's being transferred. There you go. And then when it starts to slip, it really doesn't show much else. So I don't know, maybe it does show the wheels that are slipping and I wasn't able to focus on it enough, but it just seemed to me like it wasn't much of a good sign of what was actually going on with the vehicle. And then on the right there, you got the angle, whatever, it shows you the pitch of the vehicle. So right here, we'll go down on the nose, and it angles downward. So, and then this thing, fully independent suspension, and so it handles rough roads pretty well. This one is the Subaru Outback with the 2.5 liter boxer or flat 4, no turbo, and it does lack a little bit of torque, which I think is why it had a hard time climbing that hill. But honestly, it's a very, very efficient engine, especially when mated to the CVT, and the center of gravity is super low on boxer engines, and so that helps keep the center of gravity of the vehicle really low. But this also has a high ground clearance, and I'll post it up on the screen. I believe it's somewhere between 8 and 9 inches, which is really high for basically a station wagon. I'm not sure what Subaru claims this is, an SUV or what they claim it is, but it's a station wagon to me, and it has really good ground clearance. And the all-wheel drive system, Subaru Symmetrical all-wheel drive, is great. It's always engaged and easy to use. You don't have to do anything. In normal mode, it does just fine. This is a pretty steep hill. We'll give it a little bit of gas. So you don't really have to do anything else to turn it on. It's just always there. And so it's a great vehicle, all-weather vehicle, great for heading to the ski slopes and all that kind of stuff. If you're doing some light roading, light off-roading, then it's also great at that. It's when you get into really steep climbs with, you know, lifting a wheel off the ground or whatever, that it really starts to show its downside. And I think there are two things contributing to the difficulties in climbing those hills, and that would be the CVT is one, and the low amount of engine torque would be the other one. Let's see if we can get up here. You can hear the ABS pumps working. This is a pretty steep little section. Every vehicle's done this just fine. And I can't believe the nose didn't scrape right there. Okay. Anyway, overall, like I said, just a great vehicle. It's very solid when you're driving it on the road. It just feels super solid. You're not feeling like it's chintzy or anything. Everything is really well built. It's Subaru, excellent reliability and all that, and tons of safety features, which we're not going to go over all this because this is just the off-road review, but it does have a ton of safety features and they work really well. Some of them are overly intrusive on other vehicles. I didn't get that feeling in this Outback. So let's go ahead and just get an outside shot real quick so you guys can see what it is. So it doesn't even say the 2.5 on it, but it is the symmetrical all-wheel drive Subaru Outback with the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder There is an optional is it a V6 or a Boxer 6 on this? But anyway, you can see most of the time the top of the engine would be right here. They've kind of added stuff on top, for example your AC compressor and your alternator up on top, but the real top of the engine is basically right down in there, so it keeps it pretty low. And then I do need to drive over it, the camera, to get you guys a shot underneath. We'll go ahead and do that next to show you the ground clearance and the underbody protection. These engines aren't the easiest to work on. Changing spark plugs is really a pain, as the spark plugs clear down in the side there and you can't get to it. I think you might have to take the engine out. I'm not sure if that's still a thing. They may have found a better way to get to it to change the spark plugs, but overall it's very efficient, very well designed, just a great reliable engine. Like I said, the CVT and the low torque are the downsides to it, but it is a great vehicle overall.
So you can see underneath that everything's tucked up nicely and protected, except for the muffler, which isn't a big deal when you're off-roading, and overall, great design.
Alright, you can see that flashing there, and on here, that's a downhill assist. I don't have my feet on the gas or the brake, and I was able to just go down that real slow. We'll do it again on this next hill. Okay, slow down. So this works up to 12 miles an hour, and the slower you start, the slower it will go. So it's doing it right now, keeping me at 3 miles an hour. And you can hear the ABS a little bit, but it's doing a really great job at keeping the Subaru from taking off down the hill. This is a great feature to have when you've got vehicles that don't have low enough gearing to just use engine braking. I mentioned in the Sequoia that the gearing just wasn't low enough to be able to put it down into first gear and just roll down a hill. You have to use the brakes, which then causes usually the fronts to lock up before the rears, or some combination thereof, and might cause the vehicle to slide sideways. Having the downhill assist makes a big difference in keeping control of the vehicle.
So after letting the CVT cool off a little bit, I decided to shoot those same hills from the other side. Right now it's in normal mode, and then in the next attempt we'll go ahead and put it in the X mode, but you can see what the wheels are doing on this side versus the other side, and why I wasn't able to make that climb. And here I just switched to the other side, the easier line where it doesn't articulate nearly as much, so the wheels have better traction. So other vehicles have bottomed out here in the breakover angle. Surprisingly, the Subaru didn't. Thanks for watching Engine Adventures review of the Subaru Symmetrical all-wheel drive system with X-Mode. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below with any questions you have, any vehicles you want to see, or any other information you want to share with us.